Good evening, and welcome to the McLuhan Institute Live, number 30. It's another week. It's Tuesday night. It's 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Prince Edward County time. I am in the scriptorium just outside of Bloomfield, Ontario, in Prince Edward County, in the library of Eric McLuhan, where every week on a Tuesday night I spend a few hours in his library trying to catalog and document the 6,000 or so books around me. Although it's a challenge getting through it, especially right now, as I am in what I've been calling the McLuhan Shelves, which are 18 or so, you can see them right behind me, 18 or so shelves, several hundred books, all of works of Eric and Marshall McLuhan. And it's very difficult for me to get through them because, of course, I want to read them all, and, you know, I don't have time to do that if I want to get through all this, so it's going a little slower than I wanted. I had said in the teasing leading up to this that I was going to read some more heretofore publicly unavailable letters of Marshall and Corinne McLuhan, and I'm going to do that. I just thought I'd mention a couple of things first. Actually, first thing, if you guys, dear listeners, viewers, McLuhan Institute fans, Windy Pigeons, want to help me with something, one of the million projects I'm working on involves the history of the smartphone. And I emailed the Media Ecology Association email list earlier to ask their input, and now I'm asking you. So what I'm trying to do is, how to say this without giving too much away. So I want to sort of tell the story, part of the story anyway, about the smartphone and how we got to the smartphone. And I want to do that using 12 previous technologies. So it could be things that sort of the smartphone does or took over from, like text messaging, SMS, or the pager, or the telephone, or the radio, or the television, the internet. It could be hardware things like networks or touch screen, things like that. Anyway, I'm looking for a top 12 of those sort of things that go into the smartphone, that came before, that are part of the smartphone. And I'm going to do something with those once I have the list. I've got a list of my own, but it's really hard to whittle it down, so I'm curious as to what you guys think about that. So if you would care to give me your list of 12, you can message it to me on Facebook, put it on the McLuhan Institute page, or email me, andrew@themcluhaninstitute.com, with your list of 12 technologies that sort of led up to the smartphone. And in return, when the project, if it's ever finished, I'll send you something. And if it all works out the way I hope it does, it'll be something cool. So in return for your time and effort, thank you. To business here. So where I'm at in the inventory, several copies of EME. This is the Journal of the Media Ecology Association. It's called Explorations in Media Ecology. And there are 3 volumes here. They're not in order, but this is the order they were on the shelf. Volume 4, Volume 6, Volume 5. Volume 6 here contains... Volume 6, number 3. This one is important, and speaking of a million projects, this is a bookend of one project. This could also be called McLuhan Studies number 7. Now you may know McLuhan Studies Volume 1 was published under the editorship of Eric McLuhan and Frank Zingroni. Various other people contributed to it. And it was the first issue of McLuhan Studies. There intended to be more, but it was the only one really to come into print. This issue is a special issue of EME, the Journal of the Media Ecology Association, guest edited by Eric McLuhan, general editor Lance Strait, and it essentially functions as McLuhan Studies number 7. So number 1 and number 7 in print. The 5 issues in between are only available online, and they're still hosted on a site to do with U of T. And actually, I got approached by a guy at the recent Media Ecology conference about doing something about that. And if you're watching, Guy, I think his name was Matt, I'll get back to you soon. It's on my list. And I'm going to see about hosting all of this content under the McLuhan Institute site, so it's all in one place. It would be great to get it all published once, but who knows if that will happen. In the meantime, the main thing is just to have it available. So, McLuhan Studies number 7, EME Volume 4, numbers 3 and 4, contains On Formal Cause by Eric McLuhan. This was the famous essay that Eric wrote in response to, Dad wrote a bunch of things because he was basically annoyed at people throwing terms around like formal cause. And he felt that they weren't using the term the way that Marshall used it. And the scholar that he was, he set about and wrote this essay, which took him a long time to write because he had to teach himself Greek again to be able to go back to foundational texts, Aristotle and the like. And he later published a book called Media Informal Cause, which brings together this essay on formal cause as well as other writings by Marshall McLuhan and himself, Eric McLuhan. And that's a really worthy book to pick up if you're interested in the subject. Does this also contain... No, that's the next one. Here's a bunch of off-prints from there. EME number 5, volume 5, number 3 is interesting because it has Marshall by Edmund Carpenter, which is the following remarks are a personal memoir of Marshall McLuhan as a colleague and collaborator by Edmund Carpenter. And he talks about Edmund Carpenter, Ted Carpenter. Edmund Snow Carpenter was one of Marshall's oldest friends. They did a lot of things together, like the original Explorations Journal. Marshall brought him down to Fordham University with him. And anyway, this is an interesting account. Kind of sad at the end. Following that, Concerning Media Ecology by Eric McLuhan is a neat little piece. And there are a few offprints of that. Anyway, I wanted to mention those things because we are, after all, ostensibly talking about the documenting and inventory of Eric McLuhan's library. Now I'm going to get to these letters. So I found this envelope here, Center for Culture and Technology, and that's Corinne McLuhan's handwriting. It says Marshall's Letters, which piqued my interest, possibly piqued yours. So I'm going to read 3 letters, and we're going to go over time, but that's okay, because it's worth it. I tried to arrange them chronologically. This postcard comes first. If you'll notice, maybe you can see on the ship's bow is the name Rex. And on the back here it says, in, again, Corinne's handwriting, Our Honeymoon Ship, August 12th, 1939. Isn't that something? They went to Italy through the Alps. I didn't dig it out, but there's a photograph of Marshall standing there with a pack and a big stick somewhere in the Italian, presumably, Alps. That's quite something. August 1939, to set the stage. This is postmarked St. Louis, Missouri, June 28th, 1940, and it's addressed Mrs. Herbert Marshall McLuhan, 602 West 2nd Street, Fort Worth, Texas. Marshall writes, Friday, 6 p.m. Corinne, It simply recreates me to read your letters these past days. There are many people who seem to care about my welfare quite beyond my deserts, but your love and care is the only thing I want, the only thing which really means a damn and makes a blessing. And to hear you say you want me and want us to have children simply fills my heart. All other joys are mere accessories to this. That's my granddad. What a guy. Darling, I have been at school all day, had lunch near the U, eating chili con carne and saying to myself, wouldn't it be funny if this were Friday? Wouldn't it? It has been such an upside-down sort of week that I didn't really suspect that it was Friday. Father Mallon, the dean, has been splendid to me. Told me that he has been on the phone with Father McCake, Kansas City, last night, and when Father McCake heard that you were ill, he said he would say Mass for you this morning. Father Dreyfus has been doing the same for some days. These are very great favors and great blessings, the greatest, from their point of view, that they can bestow upon us. Won't it be grand, Corinne, that Lucille will be so near us? And you would be most gratified to know how many people here are really anxious to welcome you. One would suppose that they had really had an opportunity to find out what an utterly splendid person you are, but, my very own, I haven't made a move to find a place. I begin tomorrow and shall move fast. Have no classes till Monday. Your love for me, Corinne, simply fills me with love for everything and everybody. I want to tell everybody I meet that you love me and how lovely you are. How I wish I could visit with your parents now that I am so happy. Even Carolyn might like me. Carolyn Keller-Lewis, Corinne's sister. Sis, as they called her. You have been so generous with your letters when I know how much labor they cause you to write them in bed. Apparently she was sick. Do judge your strength with care and play the safe side. I'm going to take this to the Coronado Hotel for 8 o'clock airmail pickup. Strangely, your Tuesday and Thursday letters arrived together. How I hate myself for that miserable notion about the movies you saw. Corinne, I love the name, with all my heart and all my thoughts, with yours, Marshall. Isn't that sweet? It's written on St. Louis University Department of English letterhead. And that was from June 28th, 1940. I just, every time I read these, continually touched by how much they loved each other, and the passion of their romance. It really is something. It's another time. There's coyotes going outside the window. I don't know if you can hear that. Monday night. Now, I don't have a date for this, but I think it's later, and this is a very interesting letter too. Tells you about social conventions of the time. My beloved wife, by now you are either wretched or else beginning to see some hope for the mending of wounded sensibilities at 602. Note 602 West 2nd Street, Fort Worth, Texas. By the way, just sealed up a note to your mother in which there is a phrase she may misinterpret. Having mentioned the fact that I had always regarded you as a mature and responsible person, I added that, quote, from your point of view, it is of course hard to see Corinne as a mature person, unquote. I meant, of course, from the point of view of a mother, not from the point of view of an immature person, though there is a little something chance of being mistaken or so read. Carl found nothing wrong with my teeth, so I went across the street and had them x-rayed. And still no sign of decay. Now that, my darling, is a record for me. Meantime, your teeth are acting up most inopportunely, aren't they? Perhaps you can direct attention away from us, to your trunk and your teeth and your hosiery. I have our steamship tickets. We return via Queen Mary or the Princess Elizabeth. End quote. The Rex sails at noon Saturday. And this is where I'm confused because of that postcard. Anyway. The P. Ellis, Eric, will make her maiden trip past about the time we come back next year, so we may be able to book for it now. It will be a fine boat, a finer boat than the Q Mary, and quite a social achievement to get aboard for the maiden trip. Corinne, my mind has been full of you every moment since you left. I am so proud of you. You are so much finer than I had dared to admit to myself, so much more beautiful and cherishable that I am quite the most deliriously delight-drunken husband in the whole world! Exclamation point. It quite overshadows the domestic annoyances for which we were over-prepared, I hope, and amidst which you are now something. There are many prayers being said for us, darling, and they are worth all the other kinds of assistance to be had. Carl conferred our dental care as a wedding gift. We must remember to send them something from Italy for September 9th. About your funds, Corinne, have them translated into a bill of exchange at the bank, not a money order, and if there isn't time to pick up the bill, simply have it sent in my name to Trinity Hall, Cambridge. Okay, so this must be talking about their honeymoon trip then, and I've got the order messed up. Sorry about that. For your own mail as well. I shall advise them about it, even to the extent of receiving mail addressed to Corinne Lewis. Have had no word from Mother beyond a honeymoon card. Don't carry any American currency, Corinne. I'll attend to everything from Fort Worth on. Haven't finished packing yet. We'll do some tonight when it cools off a bit, but today I have been simply flying around. Have decided to take very little with me, either of clothes or anything else. It's a bit tough, darling, not being able to enjoy us in quiet after all we've been through, isn't it? But soon. How I am trying to imagine your present mood and situation. 8 p.m. We ought to have had some more time together before you went home. You must feel quite unmated by now, you wretch. Saucy. Bill Grummel just dropped by, and we are going over to see Bernie in a moment or two. Do give me some information or signals about how affectionate I am permitted to be toward 1. You, 2. Mama, 3. Muzz, 4. Sis, 5, etc. Perhaps it would be best for us not to appear sentimental in the least. You can say best, darling. Cousin Mabel says the pictures won't be ready until tonight. She may bring them around. We shall see. Shall begin another letter to you in an hour or two, my beloved Corinne. Can't wait to see you alone, darling. All yours, beloved, Marshall. Well, that was quite the spicy thing. And that thing about please let me know how affectionate I am permitted to be toward various people. They're very proper. All right, last and not least, are y'all still with me? Somebody's there. A very short letter, but I read this and I just, well, you'll see. Saturday, 9:30 a.m. My very dear wife, did I tell you that I wasn't able to learn whether the Roosevelt had even sailed from Ireland until I got to Toronto? Actually, we landed at Halifax to unload gold on Saturday before you got to New York. But since the gold was the more important than the passengers, we were kept aboard until Wednesday and trundled over the side at Montreal. Now, I think somebody can correct me. So this is them coming back from England, and I know that Marshall had sent his thesis over on several different boats to make sure it got across, and I understand that because Corinne was an American citizen and Marshall was a Canadian citizen, they weren't allowed to travel back on the same boat because of, is in the middle of the war. Anyway, there was some sort of convention there, and I think this shows that. One of my pals on the Delectable cruise got the DTs at Halifax, and I sat up with him day and night until Wednesday. You can imagine my general morale by the end of that show. Perhaps I told you this before, I can't remember. In Toronto, I found Bernie and several other friends, and a real surprise was the guest of Dr. Phelan. Drove down here with Dick Thompson last night, bringing some silverware and tablecloths of ours. Phoned you person to person at Cousin Mabel's and was told by the operator that you had gone straight down to Fort Worth, for which I am very glad. Mother showed me the press photo a la gas mask right off. I didn't recognize you at first. Apparently there's a press photo somewhere of Corinne McLuhan trying on a gas mask. I haven't seen that, Michael. But it seemed to say that you were quite well, at least, and you may be sure that I am enormously proud of it. My first reaction, however, was satisfaction for the sake of Muzz and the rest. Mother told me of the accident, and I am enclosing a note from Muzz. Unwelcome as the thought is, we must really write some of our friends in Cambridge. I shall write Ted and Kay and the Wilsons. And you may be sure that the Essexes are famished to hear from you. With the immediate horrors, which they can expect any day now, beetling above them, you may be sure that whatever comfort we can put in a letter will be received with multiple relief. Allusion there to, the bombing of London, those buzz bombs. Today, Dick Thompson is driving us with the Alice and Carol Hollis to Ann Arbor, Michigan. I shall probably go to St. Louis on Tuesday. Mother finished her last big play Wednesday and is nevertheless looking very well. I am in an absolute chaos of mind, Corinne, feeling almost desperate until we can get pleasantly settled in St. Louis, so pray that I may encounter some good fortune in the house hunting line, comparable sum for Mother. As regards the Bon Voyage telegram, heaven forgive me, but it seemed to me that your voyage had begun when I said goodbye to you in Liverpool. Corinne, what about our family? Have you had any more discomfort? Have you told anybody? Has anybody guessed? Do tell me these things. My darling, I say our prayers every night and long to have you beside me. You can't imagine how tedious I find the company and even the sight of other human beings without you. That is at least one discovery I have made about you in the last 3 weeks, Corinne. My love for you hasn't merely grown, but I have come to see what it is and what it means. With my every thought at my Corinne, yours, Marshall. So that letter was very special to me because it was written while Corinne was pregnant with my dad, Eric. He was born January 19th, 1942, so this would have been sometime earlier in 1941. And that's probably all I will read for letters. I don't know. I don't have the time right now to go through. This is the box of letters. I don't have time to go through them all and select. I'm really needing to be focusing on the inventorying here, so We'll put a period to the letters right now, and I hope you enjoyed them as much as I have. Thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting the McLuhan Institute, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and good night.